Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi irzuqni ilma. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Wa tawakkal ala wa kafa billahi wakila. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanallahi al-azim. So what comes to my heart is a tree. And it's as if we are born as trees, each one of us extremely unique with our roots and in our trunks and in our leaves. And as we begin to grow older through our life experiences, we begin to give birth to birds that live in the trees of us. And those birds are our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, our dreams, all the ideas that we have. So it's almost as if we begin to give birth to life in the trees of us. And the reason why we are able to do that when we are younger, very young, perhaps it starts in the wombs of our mothers. The reason why we're able to do that is because the tree of us feels safe. It feels strong, it feels rooted, it feels deeply connected to the source, it feels real, it feels like it can hold space for our dreams and our thoughts and our ideas and our joy and our laughter, our connection, our friendships, our life. It feels like it can hold space for our life. And so we're fearless in the way that we dream. We're fearless in the way that we think of ideas. We're fearless in the way that we reach out and make beautiful, heartfelt connections where there are no filters except pure love. We're fearless in the way that we show up to create life in the trees of us because the trees feel safe. For some of us, though, very early on, those trees begin to feel unsafe. It begins to feel like it may not be able to hold space for us. And the unsafety of that tree comes from the events that we experience in our life and the support that we would like to have, but we do not have. The love that we thought that we had and we had a birthright to in the tree of us. And when that love is not given, when the water is not watered into the roots of our tree, or when there's a woodcutter who comes in with an axe and begins to chip away at the tree trunk, begins to strike it with its axe. And this is what life feels like for some of us who have experienced extreme trauma as children. There is a hacking away with an axe at the tree trunk of us. And because we are born to create life, because we are born to be the creators of our own reality, the birds that we had given birth to, the different kinds of birds that we had given birth to in maybe the first couple of years of our life, or maybe 6 months of our life, which are our dreams and aspirations, because the vibration of that axe is so strong, the birds begin to fly away in terror from the tree trunk. They fly away in search of safety. They begin to fly away elsewhere. And I want us to feel into it because this is what dissociation feels like. When we say that trauma disconnects us from the soul of ourselves, from the love of ourselves, from the beauty of ourselves, we disconnect means that we dissociate. That means that the purest, most life-giving, most potent parts of our selves that we had created, which were living as birds in that tree, begin to fly away. But because we are born as trees, we can't. A part of us is forever trapped in that tree trunk, and a part of us is forever stuck, feeling the vibration of that axe hacking away at our selves. That's what trauma makes us feel and makes us be, where part of ourselves is living in the body tree trunk of us, but the purest parts of us and the most real parts of us, the most godlike light parts of us, have flown away in search of safety elsewhere. And that's what's called dissociation. And I want us to imagine that if that tree had hands and feet, and the tree had the capability to, were to have the capability to walk, that's us. That's us that's people as people who have received trauma in their lives. That's how most of us walk on the path of this world, as tree trunks where the strong parts of us have flown away and there is an axe, the woodcutter with an axe hacking away consistently, and we are never not able to feel that vibration. As much as we'd like to, we can never not feel that vibration. And this is zulm. This is our first interaction with zulm. This trauma is the first interaction with zulm, because the birds which have flown away from that tree belonged in that tree and in no other tree but that tree. It deserved the smell and the taste and the magic and the air and the unique alchemical chemistry of that tree and no other tree. There's something that belonged in its original place, but because that place did not feel safe, those things flew away elsewhere, and that is zulm. It's the first interaction with zulm, because zulm, the root word is to displace something from its original place. And when something is displaced from its original place, it's forever aflutter, forever lost. That's the first part of zulm. But because now we are tree trunks who are living with self-zulm, self-harm, zulm upon ourselves, because as tree trunks, the only vibration or the most dominant vibration we feel is that of that axe hacking away at us. We are in pain and we begin to bleed and we begin to ooze things of death, and we begin to draw out other tree trunks with axes hacking away at them in a similar condition as we are. And because the pure parts of us have flown away, our interactions with those other tree trunks, our interactions with those people in those relationships will also be based on zulm, would also be based on the vibration of that axe hacking away at us. And this cycle of self-zulm, zulm upon ourselves and zulm upon another, is one that we are born to break. Each one of us is born to break that cycle of zulm upon ourselves and upon the other. And the biggest part of zulm, which is upon ourselves, is enabled most strongly when we decide to not walk, at least as that bleeding tree anymore, and to stand still. That's the first part of it. Because in that moment, what we have understood very clearly, we have beautiful, strong, lit parts of ourselves. We know them. We know them. We know those birds. We know them. We feel them. We feel them sometimes through the movies that we're watching, or through the books that we're reading, or through the smile of a beautiful child who's a stranger to us, or through a beautiful morning, or through a flower. We know the beautiful part of us, and we know that we do not have it right now within us and in us. And so it's not as if we don't know what that beauty and that fullness and that life and that creative energy of life-giving force feels like. We know it. But the grief that comes from it not being on my boughs, on my branches, on my leaves right now, it's that grief that we are most asked to feel when we begin to stand still in the awareness that I have done zulm upon my soul. Now, how have I done zulm upon my soul? Because I don't have that axe which is hacking away on that tree trunk. I did not cause my light to fly away. I did not send away the best parts of me elsewhere because it was not safe enough for them, or loving enough for them, or water enough for them here, or sun enough for them here. I did not do that. How am I doing zulm upon my soul? Because the only and the biggest zulm upon our soul is when we forget or we begin to believe that we are not worthy or that we do not deserve to have those birds sitting back on the branches of us, no matter what. No matter what. No matter how strongly the axe is striking against our bodies or our tree trunks, I deserve the birds that have flown away to come back home. And so I deserve this place to be safe again. It is my birthright for this place to be safe again. When we believe that it is not our birthright, when we believe that हमारी किस्मत है ये, या हमारे साथ ही हुआ है, या हम victims हैं of that axe hacking away at us, when we begin to live in that vibration, that is the zulm upon our souls. When we believe that we do not deserve to be rescued, when we believe that we do not deserve to be full and whole. That is the biggest zulm that we do upon ourselves. Because remember, the birds that have flown away from us will never actually ever find a home elsewhere. So in the same way that you deeply desire, that I deeply desire for my birds to come back home, in the same way, in the same depth of it, my birds are looking for me to call them back home. All the dreams that I had and all the words that I had and the magic that I had before the axe began to hit my tree trunk are the dreams and the magic which is also looking for me. And we have read this in so many different quotes from so many different teachers. What you are looking for is looking for you. What you are seeking is seeking you. But to bring it to life in this visual, in a real way, where my birds are also waiting for me to call them back home. And it is this moment that we're asked to bridge from, I am bleeding, I don't have the birds on my boughs right now, to, I would like my birds to come back home. The space in between. The space in between is when we are asked to heal the truth of us and the light of us, no matter what the circumstances. Because the biggest life lesson that we learn as we grow up is that we think or we believe that that woodcutter is unique to our tree, but it's not. The nature of the sowing might differ. The nature of the woodcutter may be different. The intensity of the blows might be different, but every human soul experiences the woodcutter slicing off or chipping off or scratching away at the tree trunks. Every human soul is meant to experience this. It is the rite of passage. It is the rite of passage. Because when the birds fly away, it's never purposeless. That means that in their flight across the many universes, in their flight across the many worlds, where they're not home, they are learning. They're gathering wisdom, and they're gathering information, and they're gathering things that they could not believe possible before. So it's not as if there is a suspension in time and space where we are in pain and our parts of ourselves have flown away from us and nothing is happening in between. That's not true. It is always in motion. And so in the worst moments of our lives, in the deepest tragedies of our life, and in the deepest traumas of our life, there is wisdom being gathered and resources being built. वो birds जो हैं वो दाने इकट्ठे कर रहे हैं, वो तिनके इकट्ठे कर रहे हैं to bring them back home, to build a nest that we know we deserve for us as well. So in all instances, there is an underlying play of the universe which never stops being of benefit to us. But what is barhaq is the fact that we would feel the extreme pain of the current moment, and we would feel the extreme loss of the beautiful parts of us not being home. It is this stage that most of us like to skip. But this is how, if we skip the stage of feeling the loss, the stage of feeling the grief, the stage of feeling the sadness and living with it for a while. It is this stage that actually helps us shift the zulm that we're doing upon ourselves to the wisdom that we're learning through the zulm that had been done upon us. And in the very beginning of my own journey of wanting to bridge that gap, of wanting to call my birds back home, there is a dua, as it always does find us. It always finds us. There's a dua that found me too. And there's a dua this dua is from Hadees. It was narrated by Abdul ibn Masud. And it says, we did not know what we should say when we sat down during prayer. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taught by Allah, and he then narrated the tradition to the same effect. And the dua is this: Allahumma alif bayna qalubina wa asli zata baynana wahdina sabulus salam wa najjana minaz zulumati ilan nuri wa janabna al-fawahisha ma zahra minha wa ma batina wa barik lana fi asma'ina wa absarina wa qalubina wa azwajina wa zurriyatina wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim waj'alna shakirina li ni'mika musnina biha alayka qabilina laha atmimha alayna. O Allah, reconcile. Subhanallah. Reconciliation is the bridging the gap between this and that, between us and the birds. O Allah, reconcile our hearts. Amend what is between us. Guide us to the paths of peace. Save us from the darkness and admit us to light. And save us from obscenities, inwardly or outwardly. And bless our hearing, our seeing, our hearts, our spouses, and our offspring. And accept our repentance. Indeed, you are the ever accepting of repentance, the merciful. And make us thankful for your favors. All praise is due to you. Accept our good deeds and complete them for us. Subhanallah. And you know why this dua resonated for me so deeply? Is because the birds that we send away are the birds of love. Because when we don't have that bird sitting on our branches, you know what it affects? Everything that this dua talks about. What it affects is our hearts, reconcile our hearts. What it affects is our sakoon, our salamati, because guide us to the paths of peace. What it affects us is we surround ourselves in shrouds of darkness, of isolation and self-harm, because save us from the darkness and admit us to light. Save us from obscenities, because we want to run away from our own darkness. So we begin to run to dark paths, walk upon dark paths, anything so that we don't have to live in those tree trunks of us. inwardly or outwardly, because as we begin to walk on those dark paths, not to be in our bodies in that tree trunks anymore, it hurts us, and that darkness is inward as well, because we are far away from home, we don't feel our own light, and outwardly it translates into our actions. And bless our hearing. Look when, and I love this, bless our hearing, our seeing, our hearts, our spouses, our offspring. 5 places where we do zulm upon ourselves, and how and through which these 5 places become places of zulm when we are away from the lights of ourselves. And what are those 5 places? We hear things which do not serve us. We see things. We train ourselves to see things. Our hearts are drawn to things which do not serve us. Spouses, we attract partners, and then we do zulm upon ourselves by living in those relationships which do not serve us. And then we do zulm upon our offspring, on our children, all because we don't feel healed enough in our tree trunks, and the birds of us have flown away. Subhanallah, these 5 places where zulm upon ourselves translates into zulm upon another. Because there are 2 aspects of zulm. एक, हम अपने आप से दूर हुए, एक ओरिजिनल चीज को हमने उससे उसकी ओरिजिनल जगह से दूर किया. That is zulm. In us removing something from its rightful original place, in us having to send those birds away from ourselves, we have done zulm upon ourselves. And because the pain is much of those birds having flown away, we begin to shroud ourselves in band-aids of darkness that we call life, that we call friendships, that we call choices, that we call behaviors, addictions, that we call ways of life. Whatever name we call it, we begin to shroud ourselves in a living coffin of darkness, because दर्द बहुत ज्यादा है और हमने ऊपर बहुत जुल्म किया हुआ है. और जब वो लिविंग कफन हम लोग अपने ऊपर श्राउड उसके ऊपर करते हैं, अपने ऊपर करते हैं, when we wrap ourselves in those shrouds of darknesses, then we end up being zalim. And look here how we have, because we end up doing zulm through our ears, through our eyes, subhanallah, through our hearts upon another, through our spouses, on our relationships and our personal lives and our children. Those are the closest effectees of zulm. क्योंकि जब हमने अपने ऊपर जुल्म किया तो हम जालिम बन गए हैं. अब वो जालिम के पीछे स्टोरी क्या है? I can't say it's not important, but हम जालिम बन गए हैं is more important than the story that enabled us to become zalim. और उस जालिम ने सबसे बड़ा जुल्म अपने ऊपर किया, और फिर वो जालिम बना दूसरे के. And these homes of zulm that we're living in, these bodies of zulm that we're living in, these eyes of zulm that we own, these ears of zulm that we own, these hands of zulm that we use, these tongues of zulm that we use, subhanallah, and the kingdoms that we build with these faculties of zulm in our home, in our offices, in our communities. It is a ripple effect that we create. And again, that ripple effect is barhaq for every human being. We're not alone in our pain. We're not alone in our trauma. It is unique to us. Subhanallah, it is unique to us, as are the birds which have flown away, as is our light, because Allah ने अपनी unique रूह मेरे अंदर फूंकी है, जो सिर्फ मेरे अंदर है, वो किसी और के अंदर हो नहीं सकती. I'm unique in that way. But I am connected in the way of humanity to every other human being whose birds have also flown away. And so the first responsibility that I have as a zalim is to acknowledge, first of all, that I'm a zalim. The dua that shifts timelines, the dua that shifts energies, dua that shifts life circumstances forever is La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. The first responsibility is to admit that I'm zalim. to call that zulm that I'm doing upon myself zulm, not call it a coping mechanism, not romance it, not heighten it into something other than what it is. Because the moment I say मैंने अपने ऊपर जुल्म किया, feel into the vibration of this, ekdam se there is a helplessness and a tiredness that comes with it. Because अगर मैंने ही अपने ऊपर जुल्म किया तो मुझे बचाने के लिए कौन आएगा? This tiredness, this helplessness, this giving up of arms, this laying down of swords, this I am going to sit here, I give up and I give in. I give in to the zulm that I do upon my soul. This is the most powerful opener, the most powerful activator for divine intervention. Because there is only one who can come when I have done zulm upon myself. No other human being can rescue us from our tree trunks of zulm, except for the Zat who has created us, which is one, which is Allah. And so at the time that we acknowledge the zulm, at the time that we are ruthlessly honest upon ourselves, to give no excuses anymore of why I do what I do, of why I see what I see, of why I say what I say, of why my tongue is so hard, or why my hands rise in sakti, even if it is not to strike another, but against another, or not to do good. In all of those elements, when I reconcile, not discover anew, but reconcile myself to the fact that I am helpless in this moment. I cannot help myself. Then the portal that opens up, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin, is the one who rescued Yunus from the depth, from the seven depths, from the depths of the sea, from the belly of the whale. From a place that when this dua was taught to Hazrat Yunus, angels had never heard the hamd of Allah coming in the way from that depth ever before. When angels said, Ya Allah, where is this hamd coming from? Because it has never been able to reach such depths. And only such depths, only one could reach those depths where the hamd of Allah was taught to him like it had been to no one before him, which is Hazrat Yunus, which is La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. Because in that moment, there was a divine portal that opened for him, that began to shift his life for him. But the first instance of that was being in the stillness of the belly of the whale, and then recognizing and knowing that I cannot help myself anymore. So all this independence that we have taught, and this self-strength that we have been taught, and this self-sufficiency and self-enoughness on how we are these gigantic individuals, bigger than giants, and how we are so strong and we are so powerful, are survival mechanisms taught to the one who has done zulm upon themselves. But once a zalim sits down, and the zalim first, remember, is the zulm upon ourselves. When the zalim sits down and says, I do not know how to help myself anymore, that's when the true strength and the true courage, which is of divine nature, begins to be fed to them like a mother feels drops of milk to her child, to her newborn child. I want us to feel into it. Because the barakat and the potency and the purity of mother's milk is one that cannot be created in any lab or taught or even tasted in any cafe. It comes from the mother's bosom. That is the nature of divine strength and divine courage that comes to us when we admit upon ourselves that we are zalim. And how does one become a zalim upon themselves? What does it feel like? What does it mean that you have done zulm? जिसके हाथों से और जिसकी ज़बान से खुद अपने आप हम लोग खुद भी महफूज ना हो और कोई दूसरा भी महफूज ना हो. This is what a Muslim is. Anybody who is not Muslim is zalim. Or Muslim hai kaun? Nothing to do with Islam, huh? Nothing to do with like Tawheed at this stage. जिसके ज़बान उसके हाथों से कोई दूसरा महफूज ना, तो मैं तो खुद अपने हाथों और अपनी ज़बान से महफूज नहीं हूँ। मैं तो मेरे अपने दिल के अंदर भी, विच इज़ वाई दिस हदीस की दुआ सुभान अल्लाह, विच इज़ के सबसे बड़ी डार्कनेस तो मेरे दिल के अंदर है, सबसे बड़ा कफन तो मैंने अपने दिल के अंदर बांधा हुआ। मैं तो अपनी हाथों और अपनी ज़बान से महफूज नहीं। कैसे? बिकॉज ऑफ द कॉन्वर्सेशंस दैट आई हैव विद माई सेल्फ, because of the way that I use my hands to bring harm upon myself. The places that my hands reach for, the love that my hands reach for, or the absence that my hands reach for, and then justify to themselves कि नहीं मैं इसलिए कर रही हूँ क्योंकि I deserve to feel whole, I deserve to feel loved. All the ways that I harm myself, first of all, and then because I'm so used to harming myself, because I have become a zalim upon my nafs, the ease with which it is easy for me to harm another with my tongue and with my hand. So easy for me to say, nahi, wo to aisi hai. So easy for me to, what is harm? Subhanallah, when I harm the honor of another human being, the honor of another human being, I am a zalim. The honor in which every human being, every living creature has been created. When I cross that boundary of honor of another human being, I am a zalim with my tongue and with my hands. And our tongues, subhanallah, our tongues, the way we can shred, because remember that woodcutter, the one that hacks off, it doesn't have to be a physical axe ever, right? It's the words that shred. Words spoken to us by our caregivers, words spoken to us by people of our families, our relatives. Words which have stayed with us, words which played themselves up as a reel in our head. You're not enough. You're not okay. You are this and that. You're not loved. You don't fit in. You're such an outsider. Oh my God, you sinner. Oh, you're always going to be making mistakes. You never do anything right. You can't get anything right. You're so little. Look at how you don't know anything. You're not smart. You're not going to ever be able to amount to much. Oh, you wrong person. Oh, what good thing do you have to say? You have nothing new to add here. Go there, sit quietly. These words are the words that we notice will come out of our tongues for another, whether it is in our intimate relationships or upon our children, where we do not know how to pull ourselves out of the cycles of self-harm. You know, it's terrifying for me how alcohol is self-harm, drug abuse is called abuse, how relationship addictions is self-harm, or career addiction is self-harm. They're all called addictions. But the biggest form of self-harm that we do, self-abuse that we do, is believing that we don't deserve our birds to come back home because our trees are too broken and we're not creating enough oxygen and we don't know what the sun feels like. The biggest self-harm that we do is to keep the birds, our light, away from our own selves. It's the biggest self-harm that we can do. This is self-abuse. And the words that stand in between, the reels that we play in our mind of all these words said to us and all the ways that we've been treated in our childhoods and through our relationships and through the world and on the street, especially as women, as in our homes and in schools. Oh, the stories that we have wrapped around ourselves, believing, nah, I do not deserve those beautiful birds. They belong to in another time, in another space. And then life happens. No, life does not happen. To keep your light away from you, to keep your love away from you, you keep your dreams away from you, to keep your curiosity away from you, to keep this gift of Allah, which is a forward moving momentum of life, this gift of creation, of new things, of new ideas, of meeting new people and new connections and discovering new places, this gift that has been given to us by Allah, to keep this gift away from us receiving that gift, to keep that gift away, those gifts away from us, is self-harm. To believe that we do not deserve it is self-harm. To believe that we do not deserve our dreams, and to believe that we do not deserve to be loved in the way that we are created, in the honor in which we've been created, in the way that we settle for too little. And we say, oh, at least ये तो नहीं है, at least मुझे मार तो नहीं पड़ती है, at least मुझे बातें तो सुनने को नहीं मिलती, at least वो मेरे बच्चों का ख्याल रख रहे हैं, at least मैं सड़क पे तो नहीं हूँ. Too little, too little, because we have not activated the divine portal that was activated by Hazrat Yunus in the belly of the whale. He could have succumbed. He could have said, okay, I deserve it. Let me stay here. This is my penance. He could have punished. He could have abused himself in that way. He refused. Look at the courage of, and look at the rebellion. He refused in spite of being feel into it. There is a creator that you're in constant communication with. You have a direct connection with him. Hazrat Yunus, right? मतलब फुल बातें शातें चल रही हैं. उन्होंने कहा आप ये करें, मैंने कहा मैं तो नहीं करता, मैं नहीं करूंगा, नहीं मैंने करना. डायरेक्ट मैंने रिबेलियन उनके साथ किया. अभी तो कोई तीसरा आया नहीं. मैंने अपने लोगों को छोड़ दिया और मैं चल निकला. और अल्लाह मेरे क्रिएटर ने कहा ये मुझे बिल्कुल बात पसंद नहीं आई, आपने अच्छा नहीं किया, आप यहाँ पे आप you will be cast into the sea and you will be swallowed by the whale and there you shall stay. That's all I knew of my fate, right? And the rejection that I would have felt and the abandonment that I would have felt and the extreme guilt and the shame that I would have felt कि मैंने क्या किया अपने साथ would have been enough for me to keep myself in the belly of the whale. And I want us to understand that most of us, even in this moment, are living in the belly of the whale. And we're living in it now by choice. हो गए, हाँ, हमने फेंक दिया, हमने बगावत की अपने साथ, हमारे साथ जुल्म हुआ, हमें नहीं पता था, हम लोगों ने हमें सीज में फेंक दिया गया, हमें वेल ने swallow कर लिया और हम उसकी बेली में हैं और अब हम लोग सी के तह में हैं. क्या यही सारी जिंदगी है क्या? बस यहीं पे रहेंगे? That's it? What's the point? What's the point? And who is the biggest zalim upon myself if I choose to stay there? Look at the life that I've been gifted with. Subhanallah. Look at the life that I've been gifted with and look at the light I have been gifted. I was not born a, a, a mute creature or another creation of Allah. I could have easily been born a star or a sun or the sky or a bird, which is just so intent upon being in the hamd of Allah that they have no concept of any other life. But I was given this unique light that I am meant to create from and create with. I do not, and I'm here in the belly of the whale, and this is my life. No, it's not. It cannot be enough. Because in that belly of the whale is my mother with me, is my grandmother with me. That belly of the whale has my sister with me. How many of us has my father with me, has my grandfather with me? How many of us are going to live in the belly of that whale? How many of us are going to live generations upon generations, believe that we do not deserve our light to come back home? How many of us live that way, but then one who does not feel into the power of that soul, the one who rebels and he says, मैंने किया अपने ऊपर जुल्म, ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता सुब्हानका इन्नी कुन्तु मिनज़ ज़ालिमीन. अब या अल्लाह आप ही हो जो मुझे निकाल सकते हो. That there is one that rebels. From every generation, there is one that rebels and says, okay, I'm here in the belly of the whale. I don't want to live here right now for the rest of my life. I'm done, but I do not have the resources literally to swim up to the surface of the ocean. And so la ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. And who is he? Who are we calling out to? Who are we calling out to? We are standing in the middle of, we're standing about 5 to 6 days away from Ashura. And a beautiful reminder on what Ashura is and the significance of Ashura. In this moment, Ashura in a concise form is the rescue of the one upon whom zulm had been done consistently by the one rescuer. It is the rescue and the end of oppression and the beginning of a new chapter of life. Subhanallah. I want us to feel into some of the, and this is from Imam Al-Ghazali, where Hazrat Umar anhu listed a few events which had taken place on Ashura. Remember the creator that you're calling out to. Allah created the skies and the earth on this day, along with Kalam, the preserved tablet. Allah created Angel Jibril, alayhi salam. Allah created Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, as well as Hazrat Hawwa alayhi salam. Allah created Jannah. Allah enabled Hazrat Adam alayhi salam to live in Jannah. The first rain to fall on earth was on Ashura. And subhanallah, now this is not from Imam Al-Ghazali, but it is from Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, who is one of the Sufi teachers and guides. He says, according to Al-Jilani, other prophets also went through significant events on Ashura, including when Hazrat Adam, Allah Ta'ala accepted his repentance and he forgave Hazrat Adam. Hazrat Ibrahim, Allah extinguished the fire he was thrown into by King Nimrod. Hazrat Ayub, Allah released him from the longest test which he had borne patiently with constant faith. Hazrat Suleiman, Allah gave him a vast kingdom which none had after him would ever have. He could command the winds, and his army consisted of men and jinn and birds and animals. Hazrat Yunus, as Allah took him out of the belly of the whale and forgave his people for their previous disobedience. Subhanallah. Hazrat Isa, Allah raised him to the alayhi salam, Allah raised him to the heavens. You feel into it? Do you feel as to what? That one nida is this awaz, nida, maine awaz di Allah ko, this one cry, this one cry. Because it may only be Hazrat Yunus, who was in the belly of the whale, but look at the events which had, and look at the prophets and the places they were in, who were rescued from the bellies of their own whales in the way that they were taught to experience and learn from life. Hazrat Adam, Hazrat Allah accepted his repentance. And Hazrat Adam ki dua, Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa in lam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna min al-khasirin. Ya Allah, maine apne upar zulm kiya. These are powerful activators, duas. Hazrat Adam ki ye dua. Hazrat Adam ki hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah extinguished the fire he was thrown into. Big moments, the deepest bellies of the deepest whales. Hazrat Ayub ki dua, Subhana Rabbi anni masani yazuru. Rabbahu anni masani yazuru wa anta arhamur rahimin. Ya Allah, I have been grasped, I've been shackled, I've been controlled with adversity. And you are anta arhamur rahimin. You are the most merciful of the merciful. सबने अपने एक्नॉलेज किया हुआ है कि हम किस मोमेंट पे खड़े हैं, हमसे नहीं हो रहा. देखो वा अयूबा इज़ा नदा रब्बहु, उन्होंने आवाज दी. He cried out. Nada is an आवाज, like a pain की आवाज, like a दर्द की आवाज. या रब्बहु अन्नी मस्सनी यजुर्रु व अंता अरहमुर राहिमीन. हजरत अयूब की दुआ. And then हजरत सुलेमान की दुआ. रब्बि फ़िरली व हबली मुल्कन ला यंबगी लि अहदिन मिन बअदी इन्नका अंतल वहाब. हजरत यूनुस की दुआ. ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता सुब्हानका इन्नी कुन्तु मिनज़ ज़ालिमीन. Powerful duas, powerful cries out to the Creator. And when did these cries come? Even if a moment we were to put aside who cried out, when did these cries come? There is one who has been sent down from the heavens to the earth. Could there be a deeper depth? He's separated from Hazrat Hawwa in that moment. Could there be a deeper depth? He's a stranger. He's a stranger to this terrain. Could there be a deeper depth? He does not understand what to do. He is helpless. He gives in. But he does not, look at the energy. In the helplessness that I'm talking about and the giving in that I'm talking about, there is a desire to be rescued from this moment. There is a desire to be elevated through this moment. There is a desire for more. Even in the depths of the ocean, he has not forgotten the birds that he remembers and the birds that he knows, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. He does not forget that, and he believes that he deserves to have them back, which is the moment that he is helpless, is the moment that he cries out. He does not give up on himself, does not do it. Hazrat Yunus does not give up upon himself. Hazrat Ibrahim does not give him. He said, okay, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. If through the fire is my elevation, let me be thrown into the fire. Does not give him. At no point is he says, Acha, this is where I am, this is what I deserve. No. The generational trauma breaker, Hazrat Ibrahim. the collective and the social and the generational trauma breaker, Hazrat Yunus. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. These are all powerful souls who did not give up on the dreams that they had, on what they deserved. And how could they not give up on that? Because they know their creator. They know their creator. They know the one who is Qawiul Aziz. Quwwat Aziz, gentle strength. Gentle strength. ऐसी कुवत जो चीजों को शिफ्ट करती है, but gently and justly and karam के साथ and fairly. They know who their creator is. They know who their creator is. And now, no matter what, and this is these du'as, whether it's the Hadees ki dua, the longer one that I narrated, or any of the prophets ki dua, at no point did they believe that they would not be forgiven, that they would not be rescued, that they would not be elevated, that their beautiful light birds would not come back. This, in essence, is faith. And this, in essence, is the strongest component of faith that we are asked to exercise as we begin to rest in the tree trunks of us, even when the vibration of the axe is high, and begin to believe and know, a knowing that the birds who had to fly away a long time ago deserve to come back home. And the one who will bring them home, because we do not have the resources to bring them home, but the one who will bring them home will make sure that the places that they're coming back to are places that can support them. And it may take us a bit of time. It may take us a bit of time to truly believe in the fact that the birds are safe, that our dreams are safe, and that we can actually create, that we can actually live life the way we were meant to, and create things of beauty and wisdom and gentleness, and shift things, create new structures, create new behaviors, create new homes, create new relationships in the way that they were meant to be created, in the original fitra of us, in the original light of us. There is one who will ensure that even when it takes time for us to readjust our belief systems, because वो काफी देर से हमारे घर से दूर रहे हैं ना, तो थोड़ा हमें वक्त लगेगा to even get familiar with the weight of them on our trees, on our branches, on our boughs. But the one who has brought them back will ensure, as is his promise, that the branches are now strong enough for the birds to sit back up on the branches and to sing the song that they're meant to sing. And to create the homes, first of all, the kitchens and the bedrooms and the lounges, which are places of noor, our kitchens, which are places of noor. And that's how small and how big we become, and how small and how big we begin. We think we're here to change the world. No, we're here to let the light back into our kitchens. We're here to let the light back into our bedrooms. We're here to let the light back into our lounges. Then we're here to let the light come back in as we're traveling down the roads, out in the bazaars, when we're interacting with strangers. Then जब हमारे अंदर हमारी लाइट, क्योंकि हमारे परिंदे वापस आ रहे हैं, जब हम लोग किसी के घर जाते हैं, आए वो क्या तोहफा, उनके लिए कौन सा हम लोग तोहफा लेके जाएं, which is bigger than the light that we're carrying, because now we are becoming contagious, because now we are bringing non-zulm. Non-zulm is nur. We're bringing words of nur to their home. We're bringing actions of nur to their home. When we are helping them see, you know, that phrase where you help another see their own divinity. But that can only happen when the first instance we have brought light into our kitchens, and then in our bedrooms, and in our laundries, and our homes. Then it spreads everywhere else. And for that, we have got to sit down helplessly, like Yunus did in the whale. Get into the whale, feel yourself under the 7 darknesses, and then say, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. I do not know how. La ilaha illallah, subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. But know that you deserve to be back here. Know that you deserve to be back home. And know that all parts of you deserve to be back here. All parts of you deserve to be back home. And in that way, we're only ever, and I want us to feel into it, as the tree begins to receive the light birds of ourselves, when we begin to remember our own beauty and our own softness and our own gentleness by the karam of our Allah, by the karam of our Creator. When we begin to do that, it's like, because now we're shifting the analogy, it's like now we're going to be walking the world. But as we walk the world, we will always be holding one person's hand. And the one whose hand we're holding is of the little girl of me, of Madiha, who knew what Allah's light felt like, who knew what beauty was, who knew what magic was, and who believed in multidimensional universes, who believed she was born a time traveler when she was 6 months older than 1 year old. I'm going to be holding her hand consistently as the gift of Allah, as a karam of Allah upon me, to ensure that I never again, as much as possible, not never, as much as possible, before I begin to choose to do zulm upon myself. Because एक जालिम पहले अपने ऊपर जुल्म करता है, फिर किसी और के लिए जालिम बनता है. तो इससे पहले कि मैं अपने ऊपर जुल्म करूं, बिलीविंग दैट दिस इज ऑल आई डिजर्व, बिलीविंग कि चलो ये तो है, पहले मैं उसकी आंखों में आंखें डाल के देखूं, उस छोटी मदिया की आंखों में आंखें डाल के, और मैं उससे पूछूं, do you think this is what you deserve? And she is clear, she is full with Allah's light, she knows, and she says, nahi beta, she will call me, she's like, nahi Madiha, no, this is not the place where you're meant to stay. You're meant to walk on from here. Let's go. In some moments, I'll be holding her hand. In some moments, she'll be holding mine. In both moments, I have called out to Allah, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. And in both moments, I have understood कि जब मैं अपने ऊपर जुल्म किया, उसी ने मुझे enable किया to be zalim. And I have also understood the fact that कि मेरे ऊपर अगर जुल्म हुआ, वो बरहक है. But what is most barhak is that I've been created in Allah's light. What is most barhak is I was born to experience love. What is most barhak is I was born to experience beauty and create and do something of light, create something of light in this dunya. I was born to do that. All of us were born to do that. And that is the reality which is bigger than all of my other realities. And this is the only reality that enables me to call out to that nida जो मैंने अल्लाह को दी है, जो मैंने उनको कहा है, जो मैंने उनको बुलाया है, but एक निदा, एक आवाज दी है मैंने अल्लाह को, या अल्लाह, रब्बी अन्नी मस्सनी यज़ुरु अंता अरहमुर राहिमीन. This affliction has shrouded me. Oh, anta arhamur rahimin. Whichever prophet ki dua I choose in all moments, I know what I'm born here to do, which is to create things of light. Because there are many of us sitting in the bellies of the whale, and all of us are enabled to call out to Allah and to be rescued from that. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah.